The silence inside the palace lasted only a few seconds, but across Britain it felt like an eternity. Without warning, a sealed royal document reportedly emerged from behind closed doors, carrying words that immediately ignited speculation from London to Edinburgh. Officials refused to comment. Royal watchers flooded social media with theories. Newsrooms scrambled to verify what had happened. And before anyone could fully understand the implications, one phrase began appearing everywhere. A new succession law has been signed. If true, it would represent one of the most controversial constitutional moments of King Charles's reign. What exactly had changed? Who would benefit? Who stood to lose? And why were senior members of the royal family suddenly being linked to an extraordinary constitutional debate that few people ever imagined would return? Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe and let us know in the comments. Should centuries-old royal succession rules ever be changed, or should tradition always come first? Now, let's uncover the story. For generations, Britain's royal succession has represented far more than a family inheritance. It has been a constitutional framework shaped over centuries by parliament, tradition, and carefully established legal principles. Every adjustment to those rules has required extraordinary consideration because the monarchy is deeply intertwined with the nation's constitutional structure. That is exactly why whispers of a newly signed succession measure spread so rapidly. The suggestion wasn't merely about changing names on a family tree. It implied the possibility of redefining how future monarchs could inherit the crown. Inside Westminster, commentators immediately began debating what such a development could realistically involve. Constitutional experts reminded audiences that no reigning monarch has unilateral authority to rewrite the line of succession. Any formal legal changes would require parliamentary legislation, alongside constitutional processes involving the other Commonwealth realms where the sovereign is head of state. Yet that legal reality did little to slow the wave of speculation. Instead, it fueled even more questions. Had Parliament quietly approved something? Was this an administrative update being misunderstood? Or was the entire story built upon incomplete information that had spiraled into nationwide controversy? As discussion intensified, attention naturally shifted toward the royal family itself. Every public appearance suddenly carried new meaning. Every facial expression became the subject of online analysis. When King Charles appeared at an official engagement wearing his usual composed expression, some interpreted confidence. Others claimed they detected visible strain. Neither observation could be confirmed, but perception often moves faster than facts. Meanwhile, Prince William found himself at the center of countless online discussions despite making no public statement on the matter. As heir to the throne, any conversation about succession inevitably places him under intense scrutiny. Supporters argued that constitutional stability depends upon preserving the existing order. Others wondered whether modern realities might eventually encourage carefully considered reforms, even if only procedural rather than revolutionary. Again, none of those conversations reflected official policy. They reflected public curiosity. And curiosity was growing by the hour. Royal historians pointed out that succession has never been completely frozen in time. Throughout British history, Parliament has periodically adjusted the legal framework governing the monarchy. Perhaps the most widely discussed modern example came in 2013, when legislation introduced absolute primogeniture for those born after October 2011. That reform ensured that the eldest child, regardless of gender, would retain priority in the line of succession. At the time, many described the change as an important modernization that preserved continuity while reflecting contemporary values. Others argued that even modest reforms demonstrated how carefully constitutional evolution could occur without undermining the institution itself. Those historical examples suddenly returned to public conversation. Could another measured reform now be under discussion? No official confirmation suggested that was the case. Nevertheless, speculation continued. Television panels filled with constitutional scholars attempting to separate legal reality from sensational headlines. They explained repeatedly that succession cannot simply be altered through a personal decision by the sovereign. Britain's constitutional monarchy functions through laws enacted by Parliament rather than royal decree. Yet dramatic headlines rarely disappear simply because experts provide clarification. Instead, each explanation produced fresh interpretations online. Some viewers insisted the palace was preparing the public for significant changes. Others believed there was nothing unusual happening at all. Both sides searched for clues in every official appearance. Adding to the uncertainty was the timing. King Charles has consistently emphasized a streamlined monarchy focused on public service rather than expanding royal roles. Since ascending the throne, discussions surrounding efficiency, financial transparency, and the responsibilities of working royals have become increasingly prominent. Supporters viewed this approach as practical modernization. Critics questioned whether reducing the number of active royals might eventually influence broader constitutional conversations. Again, these remained opinions rather than confirmed developments. But public debate rarely distinguishes between possibility and certainty. Within hours, commentators began asking whether the reported document might relate not to succession itself, but to administrative planning surrounding future royal responsibilities. Others wondered whether internal palace procedures had been mistaken for constitutional reform. The absence of official clarification only encouraged additional theories. Across social media platforms, hashtags surged. Videos claiming exclusive insider knowledge attracted millions of views. Anonymous sources suddenly appeared everywhere. Some stories contradicted each other entirely. One claimed Prince William had privately endorsed sweeping constitutional modernization. Another insisted senior advisors strongly opposed any changes whatsoever. Neither claim was supported by verifiable evidence. Nevertheless, both circulated widely. Experienced royal correspondents urged caution. They reminded audiences that anonymous reports should never be accepted as established fact without confirmation from credible institutions or official announcements. History, they explained, contains countless examples of palace rumors becoming dramatically exaggerated before the truth eventually emerged. Still, even careful reporting acknowledged one undeniable reality. The British public remains deeply invested in the future of the monarchy. Questions surrounding succession naturally generate extraordinary attention because they touch upon continuity, national identity, and centuries of constitutional evolution. For many citizens, the crown symbolizes stability above politics. For others, it represents an institution that should continue adapting alongside modern society. Neither perspective can simply be dismissed. That broader conversation forms the backdrop against which every rumor gains momentum. As evening approached, attention shifted once again toward Buckingham Palace. Would officials issue a statement? Would the government intervene? Would Parliament address the growing speculation? Hours passed. No immediate clarification appeared. The silence itself became part of the story. Commentators debated whether remaining silent represented strategic restraint or simply reflected the absence of anything requiring correction. Both interpretations spread rapidly. Meanwhile, international media outlets began covering the controversy, framing it as yet another example of the intense global fascination surrounding Britain's royal family. Newspapers from Europe, North America, Australia, and beyond examined the constitutional questions being discussed, while carefully noting that no officially confirmed new succession law had been announced. Ironically, the more experts emphasized caution, the more online speculation intensified. People searched for hidden meanings. Old interviews resurfaced. Past speeches were re-examined. Every historical precedent suddenly seemed relevant. But beneath all the dramatic headlines lay a much larger question that few had fully explored. If Britain were ever to reconsider aspects of royal succession in the future, what constitutional process would actually have to unfold? And why would that process likely prove far more complex and controversial than almost anyone realizes? The answer begins with one fundamental principle. The monarch alone cannot rewrite the rules of succession. Any genuine change would require legislation passed by Parliament and, because of shared constitutional arrangements, coordination with other Commonwealth realms where the sovereign is head of state. That is why rumors of a new succession law generate such intense debate. They touch the heart of Britain's constitutional system. Until any proposal is officially announced through the proper legal channels, dramatic claims should be treated as speculation rather than fact. One thing, however, is certain. The future of the monarchy will remain a subject of intense public interest for years to come.